We celebrate today because of women like Susan B. Anthony. She was an American social reformer and women's rights activist who played a pivotal role in the women's suffrage movement. In 1856, she became the New York State agent for the American Anti-Slavery Society. She was a lifelong friend and co-worker in social reform in the field of women's rights with Elizabeth Cady Stanton. In 1872, Anthony was arrested for voting. Can you imagine that? Arrested for voting in her hometown of Rochester, New York, and convicted in a public politicized trial. She refused to pay the fine, and authorities declined to take further action in 1878. Anthony and Stanton arranged for Congress to be presented with an amendment giving women the right to vote. It was known popular as the Anthony Amendment and introduced by Senator Sargent of California, and it became the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution in 1920. You know, I read an obituary, and it was in the Bradenton Herald, which is one of our sponsors, and it was this month, in the month of August, and I would have been proud to know this woman. Her name was Mrs. Eliza Russ. Maybe some of you know her. Mrs. Elza, as she loved to be called, strongly believed in women's rights and proudly voted in every election. This is what was in her obituary. Quote, Mrs. Eliza, as she loved to be called, strongly believed in women's rights and proudly voted in every election, unquote. How many of us can say that? Women must care enough to go to the polls, to carry out the work that women before us have worked on to give us. That right is terribly important, and I was amazed that this 95-year-old woman was proud enough to put that in her obituary, and that's wonderful. As we celebrate today, I'd like to first of all thank the Equity Planning Committee. They have been so wonderful to work with. And please hold your applause until I have announced all of them, and if they would stand. We have Patty Benson, Nancy Brennan, Joan Crawley, Lucy Lapidus, Shauna Mikado, Mickey McElroy, Carol Noonan, Kathy Orr, Kathleen Pickering, Ellen Roche, Rosalie Schaefer, and Vicki Waters. Thank you so much for putting this together. You know, if we didn't have people who stepped in to help, we couldn't have these nice events. I also would like to introduce the head table. And please hold your applause till they have been introduced. We have our honorary chair, Dr. Diana Green, who is the superintendent of Manatee County Schools, Now, we do not have Brooke Bello here yet. She had a graduation at her school, but she'll be here in time to talk to you. And we have Linda Guilfoyle, and Linda is representing the AAUW Bradenton branch. And we have Jenny Hyman, who is the President, Commission on the Status of Women, Sarasota County. So thank you, ladies. We have our host committee, and that's a long list, so I'll go fast. But if you would stand until everybody's recognized, and then we can have applause for that. Dr. Diana Green, Honorary Chair and Superintendent, Manatee County Schools. Linda Guilfoyle, President, American Association of University Women Bradenton Branch. Pat Benson, President of Manatee AAUW. Ellen Roach, President, AAUW Sarasota. Kathleen Pickering, President, American Association of University Women Venice. Joan Crowder, Executive Editor, The Bradenton Herald. Ginny Hyman, President, Commission on the Status of Women, Sarasota County. Erica Shepard, President, Delta Sigma Theta. Laurel Lynch, Executive Director of Hope Family Services. Rosalie Schaefer, President, League of Women Voters, Manatee County. Phyllis Vogel, President, League of Women Voters, Sarasota County. Dr. Mona Jane, co-founder, Manatee Equity Day Celebration. Betty Shamlis, Director of Marketing and Communications, Manatee Memorial Hospital. Dr. Emily Fairchild, Director of Gender Studies, New College of Florida. Dr. Carol Probus, President, State College of Florida, Manatee, Sarasota. Dr. Jane Rose, Dean, University of South Florida, Sarasota, Manatee. Vita Patel, Co-President, Gulf Coast Chapter, U.S. Committee for UN Women. And Ashley Brown, Executive Director, Women's Resource Center. We thank you for being here and all you do. They make it very special to have this event, and we appreciate it. I would like to now recognize the current officers elected in Manatee County and Sarasota. Jane Goodwin, member of the Sarasota School Board. Carolyn Zucker, member of the Sarasota School Board. David Miner, member of the Manatee School Board. Hayden Brody, Sarasota County Commissioner. Willie Shaw, Sarasota City Commissioner. And Jill Luke, Northport Commissioner. Thank you for being here. And we have former elected officials with us. Marlene Woodson Howard, former Florida State Senator. Peggy Simone, former Florida State Representative. Katie Parola, former Mayor of Bradenton Beach. Susan Atwell, former Sarasota City Commissioner. Marianne Servian, former Sarasota City Commissioner. Debbie Trice, former member of Sarasota Charter Review Board. And Margaret Tusing, former North River Fire Commissioner. And we also have with us Shirley Reed, who is the Florida State President of AAUW. Thank you. Last but not least, Dr. Mona Jane, founder of the Women's Equity Day celebration and member of the Florida Commission on the Status of Women's Foundation. And a special warm welcome to Kelly Skiba. Is Kelly there? Kelly Skiba, Director of the Florida Commission on the Status of Women, who had been very supportive of our celebration over many years. Her organization is the one responsible for the Florida Women's Hall of Fame members of which are represented on the biographical cards at each table. If we have overlooked anyone, please let me know and I'll announce you before the beginning of the program after lunch. I would also like to ask that the presidents of any of the organizations supporting this event please all stand to be recognized at this time. You make our community a better community. I would also like to direct your attention to letters of greetings and support that are printed in your program from Governor Rick Scott, the National Association of Commissions for Women, the Florida Commission on the Status of Women, the Florida League of Women Voters, and the Florida American Association of University Women. We have over 300 people here today, and thank you for celebrating with us. Now I would like to turn the microphone over to Linda Guilfoyle.
Good afternoon. It's such a pleasure to be here this afternoon to introduce our honorary chair, Dr. Diana Green. I've had the privilege of working with Dr. Green for many years. Her leadership and dedication to our children has truly made a difference for our entire community. Her passion for education is evident in all she does as a teacher, a principal, a curriculum development, and now as our superintendent of schools. But most of all, when you think of Dr. Green, you think of a mentor. She is such an encourager of others. She truly embodies our theme for today, reflect, celebrate, engage. She's very thoughtful and reflective in all that she does. She celebrates successes in our community and challenges and engages all of us to make a difference for others. It is truly an honor to introduce Dr. Diana Green.
Good afternoon. All too often, when we think of ourselves as women, we do not celebrate, nor do we feel comfortable lifting ourselves up before others. But it does not matter whether you are the CEO of an organization that serves over 49,000 students, 7,000 employees, and a budget over $800 million, or you're a domestic CEO of a household of 4 children, a husband. We wear many hats as women, and we wear them so well. We are the giver of life. We are the ones who have pushed, whether it is our young women or young men, forward to be all they can be. And so I am indeed honored to be the guest who gets to introduce this lady, a lady who's been through hell and back. But not only has she been there, she came back stronger than ever. And so as you look at her bio, Brooke Bello, this bio pales in comparison to just meeting her personally. She has a spirit that can light up a room, and I'm sure today when you leave, she will have touched your soul. Brooke Bello, More to Life founder and CEO, is the author and innovative thought leader. She's a filmmaker, actress, who is changing the way pop culture views sexual exploitation. She and her team address the root causes of human trafficking. Brooke's effort as a human rights activist has led to sweeping changes to Florida law. She is recognized nationally and internationally as an innovative thought leader in the prevention of human trafficking, sexual violence, and sexual exploitation. Recognized for her powerful work, Bello is sought after as a motivational speaker, and has been the keynote speaker at national events. She has spoken and taught alongside some of the world's most influential people, including President Jimmy Carter. Bello is a member of the Buffett family's Novo Foundation and other influential organizations. She has been honored with multiple awards, including 2 honorary doctorates. She was recently named the United Way Worldwide as one of the heroes, an honor that will be featured in the 2017 television series, The Hero Effect. In 2016, she was named the Florida State Advocate of the Year. She was chosen as Hero of the Month by Discovery Communications in November 2015. Not only has she been an actress, a filmmaker, an advocate, but she is also a licensed chaplain. She's earned a bachelor's degree in biblical studies and a master's degree in Christian counseling. She is currently completing a doctorate degree. I just get tired. Just reading this, I'm tired. In pastoral clinical Christian counseling. She also hosts a YouTube web series entitled Brooke Bello Inspired Euphemisms, featuring inspirational speaking, teaching, and preaching ministry. She does this with the support of a very loving husband and many loving friends. It is my honor to introduce Brooke Bello.
Good afternoon. Today is Women's Equality Day. Woohoo! Yes. I want to pay homage to President Barack Obama and the White House, who gave me the Lifetime Achievement Award from him and the White House in December 2016. Thank you, President Barack Obama. I want to thank all of you here. I'm excited to be chosen to share. The words I'm going to speak are going to be brief and impactful and important. I'm thinking of a line in a film that Viola Davis said so beautifully when she looked at the little girl that she took care of, and she said, "You was smart, you was kind, you was important." We are all smart. We can be kind, and we're always important. The roads to freedom in America were won not only with the effort and treasure of men, but also of honorable, hard-working women. To avoid silk and linen acquisition from England, women wove their own cloth for their families, and many women disguised themselves as men and fought in the war against England, while other women of color were enslaved and doing the hardest of labor here in America, brought in chains and crates too short for human beings. Nevertheless, when the United States Constitution was adopted in 1789, it did not include women. And of course, a far cry from women of color. Where do we go from here? And why is it important to vote? International Women's Day was in March this year, and the lives of women and girls is affected by all we do at all times all over the world. Why? Because of the digital medium, because of technology, because of cell phones. Our children and us are exposed to information, good and bad. And so the power to vote is extraordinary, and we have to always exercise it. Right now, a friend of mine whose name is Ken Morris, he is the great-great-great-grandson of Frederick Douglass, and he is also the great-great-grandson of Booker T. Washington. What a lineage. Currently, a friend of mine, Congresswoman Gwen Moore from Wisconsin, completely and beautifully wrote the Violence Against Women Act with other legislative leaders. This year, that bill was completely defunded. It perpetuates the idea that how important are we really? And this is one of the reasons why voting is so necessary. I'm very bipartisan. I am a registered independent because what we do in the world requires us all to be in unity and to work together. And so whether it's the Republican Club or the Democratic Club, I will sit and talk. I sat for 3 hours with Congresswoman Gwen Moore a few months ago in Washington, D.C. And she co-wrote a bill that is before the House right now, which changes the name of the Trafficking Victims Reauthorization Protection Act, which passed the Congress 100%. It's about to go before the Senate. It changes the name of the Trafficking Victims Reauthorization Protection Act to the Frederick Douglass Anti-Trafficking Act. Why this is so important is once upon a time, it was only African Americans that were enslaved and brought from Africa here, which was always wrong. But now, it is all of our children and families here and all over the world that are being enslaved in ways that are seamlessly voiceless and faceless. And so what this bill will do is cause us to work together in unity, understanding the urgency and the protection of the posterity of our nation, because we are losing our youth today. What can happen today in the world? Why should we vote? Women can be kidnapped. In Malta, if a man who abducts a woman intends to marry her, his sentence is automatically reduced. If the man marries his victim after the abduction, he is subsequently exempt from any and all prosecution and punishment. A similar law is in place in Lebanon, where a man who commits a rape or kidnapping cannot be prosecuted if he marries the victim after the crime. And this is also the same where? In the state of Virginia. There is a little old law in Virginia that if a man, and there are many men, there are currently over 4,400 child brides in Virginia. If a 55-year-old man impregnates a 15-year-old girl and marries her, it is no longer a crime. And so why do we vote? Why do we connect to legislative leaders? Why do we perpetuate the passion and zeal as women to fight against the monstrosities in the world? Because if we don't, who will? Women are forbidden to drive. In countries such as Saudi Arabia, it is illegal for women to receive driver's licenses. This is very similar to victims of human trafficking and prostitution in our country today. And sadly enough, if you are indoctrinated into human trafficking at the age of 9 or 10 and find yourself there after 18 addicted to opiates, and you have a bunch of felonies on your record, you also can't get your license. Why? Because we no longer see her as a victim. But she is. Because if I grew up in England, I might say to you, oh my God, I love it. You guys look amazing. This is wonderful. I love your white hat. It's gorgeous. Need it, want it, got to have it. My accent would come from where? My upbringing. I wouldn't have tried to practice it. It's just who I am. This is what we're dealing with today, with Sarasota and Manatee County being the epicenter for opiate addiction in our nation, and many are victims of human trafficking. Because oftentimes, if you're sexually violated as a child and move through and are trafficked, and then now you're over 18, people don't look at you like a victim anymore. And so voting and our understanding of legislative practices and public policy changes the way people think. Women inherit less than their brothers. Different versions of this law exist in various countries. In Tunisia, for example, women only inherit half of what their brothers do. And because of digital technology, everything we do in America affects the whole world, doesn't it? Husbands have more rights than their wives. In Israel, divorce depends solely on the will of the husband. Half a world away in Mali, a 2011 law upheld the man's status as head of the household and mandates a wife's obedience to him. It also declared that women must wait 3 months to get remarried after a divorce or death, but men have no such restriction. We are living in an age where we need to understand that equality is important, and we are at the epicenter and the crescendo to create that. Men can choose where women work. In countries such as Cameroon and Guinea, men have more of a say in where their wives will work than the women themselves. For example, in Cameroon, a husband may prohibit his wife from taking a job in a different trade or profession than him if it is in the best interest of his marriage and children, so he says. Cameroon is one of 18 countries where women cannot get a job if their husbands feel it is not in their family's interest. Women can be beaten, and are often. Laws such as this are not uncommon. In fact, 46 countries have no laws protecting women from domestic violence. And with our Violence Against Women Act being defunded in 2017, our long struggle of women who fought against domestic violence, making it important that we see it and funded in our nation, funds are leaving that education and that prevention. And so it is our voting and our connection with senators, mayors of cities, and governors of states that will perpetuate change. Women cannot pass on citizenship in the same way as men. Even in the United States, men and women are viewed differently under the law. A child born out of wedlock to a foreign mother and American father has a grueling process to become an American citizen. And there are more requirements to meet if the mother is not a U.S. citizen and the father is. At least 22 countries do not allow married women to pass citizenship to their children, as fathers can, and 44 countries do not allow married women to pass citizenship to their spouses, as married men can. Change, the winds of change, are upon our shoulders today. Voting is described like this, is a method for a group to make a decision or express an opinion. If we don't vote, our opinion is not heard. And we've made zero decision. In 1920, women received the right to vote. But even with the lawful right to vote in every state, Native Americans, women included, suffered from the same mechanisms and strategies such as poll taxes, literacy tests, fraud, and intimidation that kept African Americans from exercising that right, and American Indians. In 1965, with the passage of the Voting Rights Act and subsequent legislation in 1970, 1975, and 1982, many other voting protections were reaffirmed and strengthened. As you know, the Voting Rights Act, signed into law by President Lyndon Johnson on August 6, 1965, aimed to overcome legal barriers at the state and local levels and prevented African Americans from exercising their right to vote, and American Indians, the 15th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. Native Americans, women included, after the passage of the 1924 Citizenship Bill, it still took over 40 years for all 50 states to allow Native Americans to vote, including Native American women. Why do we need to vote, and how does it affect us today? As a survivor of human trafficking, I come from a highly educated family, probably too educated, if you will, maybe a little bit bougie at times. But education is important. But there are different types of intelligence that we need in the world today. Emotional quotient, a high IQ with a high IQ will take you far. A high IQ with a low EQ will cause some damage. And so I was raped by my grandfather, or not by my grandfather. Sorry, I just come from a graduation where someone was, but a close friend of my grandfather's. I ran away after that. Straight A student, a baseball player, pitcher, track star, hurdler. And I was picked up off the street, my best friend and I, by a beautiful couple we thought, that would feed us, clothe us, and put us on the right track. They injected me with drugs, beat me within an inch of my life, and sold me into human trafficking. The woman you see before you today is, well, as Dr. Green said, I've been through hell and back. And to discover the prowess and the power of being a woman in the world today is more than a notion. I've heard congressional leaders in my times in DC saying, I feel like a potted plant, quote unquote. But we are not potted plants. And just because it seems as though our voice is and cannot be heard is not true. Because just as a butterfly flaps wings gently in another part of the world and starts a tidal wave on the other, this is how powerful and enigmatic our voice is. As Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high. When Maya Angelou died, my mentor comes from extraordinary mentors. Mary McLeod Bethune, who mentored Dorothy Height, and Maya Angelou, who mentored my mentor. And 3 days before she died, she gave me a book, Mommy and Me and Mom. And she signed it over to me saying, Dr. Bello, in all you do, remember to have joy. Here's this woman, 80-something years old, laying on her deathbed, signing a book over to me and other alumni in the Master Series of Distinguished Leaders. We all hit the floor in awe that even to her last breath, she was serving with strength and with nurturing. And I know that you are those women here today. I do want to say, I do love men. And for all the men here today, we celebrate you and we thank you. I'm going to end with a few quotes about women from various walks of life. The fact that adult American Negro female emerges a formidable character is often met with amazement, distaste, and even belligerence. It is seldom accepted as an inevitable outcome of the struggle won by survivors and deserves respect, if not enthusiastic acceptance. Maya Angelou. If you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. Margaret Thatcher. And she said, I am not free while any woman is unfree, even when her shackles are very different from my own. Audre Lorde. And finally, women are only voiceless because in today's world we speak a lot but rarely do enough to affect those outside of our own gates. Brooke Bello said that. Our hashtag for today is Women Be Heard. Women be heard. Women be heard.
I can't believe I have to follow her. Okay. Okay, there we go. Charles told me to do this. All right. I'm Ginny Hyman, President of the Commission on the Status of Women for Sarasota County. Dr. Bello echoes a lot of what we say and stand for. All of us, especially the women. We have been saying, stand up and speak up for the last 5 years. Not everyone can do that. If you can't do that, then share. Share it on Facebook, share it with your friends, share it in the grocery store. But when something affects us, as many of the issues that Dr. Bello just mentioned does, and many that are coming down the pike, we need to stand up and speak up for all of us. I don't think we can be Republicans. I don't think we can be Democrats. I don't think we can be libertarians. I think we need to be women first and party second. And along those lines, make sure you have a write-in ballot. There is no excuse for a woman not voting. No excuse. If you have a write-in ballot and your kid gets the flu that day and you can't get to the polls, at least you can do your write-in ballot. And the way to go is with the write-in ballot, whether you're a senior or whether you're a mother or whether you're a college student. You need a write-in ballot. So when you go home, you get on the web, go to the Supervisor of Elections, and request a write-in ballot for the 2018 election. In fact, I think we have another election coming up in part of Sarasota County shortly. So make sure your voter's registration is in order, they've got your address right, your name, your age, and everything else. Do it now before the election becomes an issue. And that's basically what I have to say. I want to thank everybody for coming today. Faye thanked everybody before for the sponsors and everybody on the committee, but we thank all of those people again also. One other thing I want to mention to you is the Sarasota Commission is going to be morphing into a Suncoast Commission on the Status of Women. Our mission is education, research, advocacy, and we're going to be merging with Charlotte County, Sarasota County, Manatee County, Pinellas County, and Pasco County. None of those other counties. Now, we're going to be meeting online, Facebook Live, teleconferencing, message chat rooms, whatever it takes, and then we'll meet a couple of times a year in person. So please make sure you like us on Facebook. I hope you signed up with your email address so that we can keep in touch with you. And we encourage you and your friends to come and join with us. And I want to thank you again very much for coming. Next year, we will be meeting in Sarasota. It's an election year. Please come. Please bring your friends. We're going to be expecting all of the candidates to show up, although they can't bug you during the luncheon. But, you know, it's going to be a very important year for all of us. So let's show up and show them that we stand up and speak up for what's the right thing to do. All right, thank you, women, and thank you, gentlemen, who have come also.
This is important because way back in the 1800s, Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton decided that women should have the right to vote. And Susan B. Anthony did vote and was arrested and was charged, but they did not make her pay the fine. But then they gave the order to a senator from California, who then turned it into the 19th Amendment for the women to have the right to vote. I think it's so important. We have over 300 women here today, and that is a great turnout for August. And we did have some people who did come in later, but we had already made plans. So it's wonderful to see the turnout. Well, I think it's so important that they, first of all, get out and vote. People must vote, and women must vote to get these issues out. And just to have the camaraderie of all these women here today to do that makes us feel really great.
I am happy to be here because I'm here for all those grandmothers and mothers who fought to get us all our voting rights. It started back in the early 1900s. AAUW was started in the 1800s. It took a lot of effort and a lot of prison time for some of these women. If you haven't seen Iron Jawed Angels, you really should see it, and you will know what the women of this country went and had to do to get us this voting rights. And I am just disturbed by women who don't vote, who are in their 20s and 30s. I have been voting since I'm 18. Yes, it is, because last year we didn't have as large a turnout. This year we do. It involves the League of Women Voters, AAUW, Status of Women. The organizations come together and organize this event. And Faye Murphy was the leader this year, and she has done a wonderful job, along with every committee person. We are still fighting the wage war. Lily Ledbetter, who got her financial backing from AAUW, has now been passed. We are still making 78 cents to a man's $1, and we still have a long way to go. And we need more women legislators to help in that fight in Washington, D.C., not only with pay inequity, but also health inequity and health care. And we are all fighting for those concerns. Wages, health care, and hopefully they never take back our voting rights. That they all should become involved. They should be part of the organizations that are represented here. And we need fresh new blood, because some of us are getting very old, and we do need people. We need people, women, to support us.
Because the Republican Party supports women. All issues are women issues.
Equality.
I can't, personally, I don't think there is such thing as a woman's issue. All issues are the same, belong to the family. Family issues are important.
I think I'm one of the few men here. I don't know how that happened, but yeah. But essentially, I want to make sure that the Republican Party is represented and we stand for equality of everyone in America. That's my main point.
And if we're equal, that means there is no such thing as women's issues and men's issues. We're all equal. All people are created equal.
Well, our voices are important because oftentimes conservative voices are not heard. There's a lot of, megaphone voices at certain events, and we want to make sure everybody realizes the Republican Club and conservatives are represented through us. So that's why it's important.
We want free markets and limited government, smaller government, so we can keep more of our own money.
Well, I want to support my other female friends. I want to encourage the younger ladies to run for office, to get involved in politics, to do good in business, and there's just so many reasons that it's so important for women to support women. I think one of the most important one is wage equality. Because so many women are the sole supporters of their household, we have got to make sure that women who do the same job get the same pay. And so that to me is one of the top issues that women face, along with health care. You know, it makes me feel extremely hopeful, but obviously next year I'd like to see it be 600 and the year after that 900. And I think that we just need to do more by reaching out and getting more younger women involved and prepare them for their future. That every single person has something to contribute. Every single person can be of great benefit to other women and to our younger women who are truly going to determine our future.
It was essential for all people to be here to stand up for equal rights. But I especially, as a former Rochesterian and biographer of Martha Matilda Harper, feel it's very important that we know the incredible accomplishments of women like Martha. Well, you've enumerated many of them. Sexual harassment is huge, which we clearly saw on a national scene. And until we are able to view each other as individuals and not segment whether this person is a cute chick and whether or not she'll stay in the job, or whether or not we take care of child care, which is a critical issue for any society. They're designed to tell a forgotten story about Martha Matilda Harper, the servant girl immigrant who comes to America, befriends Susan B. Anthony, and ultimately opens her own healthy hair salon for women. It hadn't been done. And then with the help of Ms. Palmer, she ends up opening modern franchising with 500 franchises around the world. Now that's really an incredible story beyond McDonald's, but also a story that young people need to know. So we've created a children's book called Martha's Magical Hair to inspire them. That equality has to be translated on a day-to-day basis throughout our community, and not just on Women's Equity Day.
This is the 97th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. And in today's political atmosphere, women's influence is extremely important and is getting even more important in the next 2018 election. So it is very important that women be reminded of the women that came before us and what they sacrificed to get us here, and that regardless of your political affiliation, if you are a woman, get out and vote. Yes, I think it's wonderful that so many women come out and support this, and I think that these are the women who vote. We need to also appeal to the women that don't get out to vote for whatever reason, and there's no excuse today with mail-in voting. So if for some reason you can't get to the polls, you should definitely call the supervisor of elections and get registered for a mail-in vote for 2018. It's very important. In fact, it's so important that we are expanding the Commission on the Status of Women to become the Suncoast Commission on the Status of Women, which will embrace Charlotte County, Sarasota County, Manatee County, Pinellas County, and Pasco County. And since it's not practical for everybody to come to every meeting physically, we will have a few physical meetings a year, but the rest will be on Facebook Live, will be on message chat, and will be by teleconferencing. So if you want to get involved, please email or like our Facebook page, but you can email cswsarasota@gmail.com and we'll get you on our email list and you'll find out. Now, to address Charles's question, domestic violence is a big overview that affects all women in many ways that you don't even realize. And I'm not just talking about violence in the workplace, violence in the home, but all over. And in today's current political atmosphere, with racism being okayed and other issues, that it's okay to not pay women the same, and it's okay for this, we're only at 78% of what men make for an equal salary. That's not far. That's 50 years worth of work that these women have been doing to get us to 78%. We need to get to 100%. And birth control should be a non-issue. Birth control is what put women in the workplace, made it possible for them to get education, made it possible for them to work while raising a family, and to control the size of their family. So there are many, many issues, many too many to discuss right here. Empowerment and education. We have many, many booths here of various organizations, not just women's organizations, but political, social, educational, and we want them to take away the information and go home and read it and incorporate it into their daily lives. Stand up and speak out. When you hear people disrespecting women, when you hear people talking about education isn't so important, public education is extremely important. This voucher business is not good for anybody except private corporations. We need to have quality public education, and we need it in Florida and throughout the United States. Education is empowerment, and that's what I want people to take away from this today.
I'm Emily Fairchild. I'm Director of Gender Studies at New College of Florida, and I'm proud to be here along with the New College Foundation sponsoring the Women's Equity Luncheon on behalf of the Gender Studies program. We've been doing that for, I think, the better part of 10 years.
This luncheon is very important to New College of Florida. It's important that we support women in the community and the kinds of issues that women are facing, and as we're educating young men and women, all of these issues are very important, and we want to be able to make sure that we are modeling the kind of behavior we want to see in our students.
Well, they can support the issues by voting. They can support the issues by communicating their interests to the people that are currently elected officials, and by doing everything in their power to get elected officials in place that recognize the continued inequality of women in society. I think that we're at a point where people think that maybe that's not such an important issue anymore, and we know that it is, regarding pay inequality, regarding family leave policies, regarding reproductive rights and women's health.
Well, I think New College's philosophy is really supporting human rights and people's rights. Women's rights in particular need to be represented over and over and over again. And I think what we've seen in the, most recently in the political sphere is that there's still many issues that we need to tackle and deal with and reveal for what they are, and that we have a long way to go yet for women. And this, again, something that's important not just for women but for men as well. I want people to feel supported. I want women to feel empowered and to know that these are issues that we all take seriously. We're not alone, and that we're stronger when we're working on it together and sharing our experiences and our support.
It might sound a little contradictory. I'd like them to both take some inspiration, and I'd like them to take a little frustration about where we are politically, and take that inspiration to address the frustration and move forward with some positive change.
Co-founder of the Equity Luncheon celebration, and we are gathered here. Today is Saturday, August 26, 2017 at Polo Grill. And what we are doing today is we are here to reflect, celebrate and engage in the women's voting right. And 2020 is going to be our 100th years anniversary. So all we need to do is, it's not only women but men, that we believe in equality, and equality is very important. They say a nation progresses if they respect their womanhood also. So I urge everybody to work together, both women and men, young women, young men, to do something about it. that we need diversity, we need unity, and we need the equality, and it's very important without any doubt. I think from today's event, they need to take away that it does not make any difference what party, what ethnic group, what cultural group, what religious group we belong to. We all have to say that every citizen of United States has the equal rights. If our right is that we can vote, then let's take our responsibility, because rights and responsibilities go together, and make sure that we vote sensibly and regularly. Today's guest speaker is going to talk on a very important topic. The same topic we had it because the Florida Commission on the Status of Women few years back in our Sarasota Manatee area had the same speaker, and this is how this thing gets started in both Sarasota and Manatee. Even we had a friend here from Tampa who took it to the Tampa also. So this is very an important topic, and we should not neglect it, because we think it happens somewhere else, but it happens in our backyard also. And we all know that our state is one of the worst one in that area.